So we were up in Pine Top, which is like a popular vacation spot here in Arizona, a couple hours north of Phoenix, with our friends, the cops. So we were just having fun. We wanted to go back on the golf cart. So we were driving around for a good hour and a half, 2 hours. And yeah.
We decided to go to Pine Top, Arizona for the week of 4th of July.
Steve and Don Kopp, great friends, and we met them close to 10 years ago and just really hit it off with them right away.
The adults were back at the cabin hanging out. We were actually doing a puzzle, and Steve gets a call from his daughter. Steve answered the phone, and I just remember staring at him, looking for a reaction from him, and he said, "So everyone's okay?"
Nick and I hurried as fast as we could, got in the car. When we first got to the scene, it was worse than I expected.
We came around a bend, and the first thing that we saw was the golf cart tipped over.
We really just didn't understand the intensity of the situation of what happened until we walked in and saw our kids.
I was in complete shock. It was just a lot of blood everywhere. Seton's shirt was completely ripped off, huge road rash on his back, his legs, his arms, same thing with Luke.
My daughter had flesh coming off her feet. It was unimaginable.
When we brought the kids home, the first day that we had to change their bandages was a nightmare. We take the kids to Arizona Burn Center, and the only way I can describe it is like watching someone in labor. It was hyperventilating, it was screaming, it was level 10 pain, it was horrible. They recommended that we admit Seton. Luke, on the other hand, was in pain, but it wasn't as extreme as Seton's, so we were able to just manage his wound care and dressing changes at home.
When Seton Underwood presented to our team, he had second and potentially third-degree burns to several parts of his body.
Seton ended up spending 6 days in the hospital, and they would come and change his bandages every day. The anxiety that Seton experienced leading up to these bandage changes, it was all he would think about.
They would put the Silvadene cream on my back. It took about 5 minutes, but I could just feel it getting worse and worse and worse. It was so bad.
I had just been home for the last 3 days with Luke, and it was quite a process and unbelievably painful for him.
The Silvadene cream, it would burn whenever it got put on.
It was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do with either one of the boys, even in the hospital with Seton, just watching it.
When we got home from the hospital, I had reached out to a friend who's a nurse practitioner, and she helped change out Mackenzie's feet for the first time. Her tendon was exposed, the flesh was pulled back. We started changing Mackenzie's wound care from soaking her feet into this wet to dry process where we would change her bandages twice a day. Mackenzie had a lot of fear just in her face and her body language. And all of a sudden, we started to see her face and her eyes filled with tears and clinch and say, "Mom, don't pull." And we knew we couldn't just continue with that.
One of the burn doctors told us they were gonna try a different type of bandage. This new bandage would eliminate the daily bandage changes that were so painful. We would be able to leave the bandage on for 5 to 7 days.
Mepilex AG, once applied, can be left in place and stays effective for several days. This prevents us from changing that dressing again and again every day. So not only it will help with the wounds, but actually helps a lot in decreasing that painful event that happens every day.
The wound care team applied the Mepilex AG product to his entire body where the wounds were. He was like a brand new kid. There was no pain.
It was so much better. I was just kind of waiting to see if it would get worse and worse, but it never did.
We just knew at that point that we were gonna get to go home in the morning.
With the Mepilex AG, he didn't feel any pain. They didn't have to put on the Silvadene cream. He was actually able to lay on his back. I was like, bring some of that home for Luke, please. That was the turning point for us in this entire process.
When the Mepilex bandages, it didn't burn at all.
It let me sleep comfortably, and it was super nice because it would stay on for like a week at a time, and like it would feel good getting them off.
The road rash on Seton's back, initially doctors were thinking there was a 50-50 chance he was gonna need a skin graft. But once we started using the Mepilex AG and brought him back to the hospital for his first follow-up visit, that was completely off the table.
I would say thank you because, like, if it was that every day, the Silvadene, I would have been in the hospital so much longer.
We first heard about Mepilex AG from Nick and Laura. When we found out about it, we immediately wanted to try it on Mackenzie to see if maybe that would help.
From the very first change, we immediately noticed a difference. And not only that, it wasn't a dreadful time.
Once I started using Mepilex AG, the wounds healed way quicker and it just healed my recovery a lot faster.
It's nice now that it's all over that we can just kind of have a normal life and hang out with friends and family and just relax.
When we found Mepilex AG and we switched to this, it was night and day, the difference.
I'm back to doing cheer full time now instead of having to sit out on the sidelines.
I never could have imagined that a bandage or a wound care or a dressing would have ever made a difference. I thought a bandage is a bandage is a bandage.
Mepilex AG truly is a game changer.
Mölnlycke says that better outcomes begin here. Couldn't agree more. We lived it.